Welcome back to Soul Mastery for the soul-led entrepreneur who desires it all, purpose, power, and profits. I am your host, Jaitali Desai, business and success mentor, utilizing the neuroscience of business to help entrepreneurs increase their impact while increasing their income. And today I have the most beautiful guest coming on, and we are diving into all things feminine energetics. We're talking about going with the flow, intuition, and the magic behind business. Before I get carried away, I am so excited to introduce Krystal Jugarap. She is not only a colleague of mine, but she is also CEO and founder of Book of Bijou and Empowered by Women. Krystal, welcome on.
Hi, Chitali. I am so grateful to be here. So thank you so much for having me.
I'm so excited to have this conversation with you, to welcome you and introduce you to my audience. But before we get into all of that, I would love for you to give us like a brief intro to who you are and what you're all about, because I know you're quite dynamic, and what I have to say, I don't think would be as powerful as hearing it from you directly.
Absolutely. So, again, my name is Krystal Jugarap. I am a mother of soon to be three little babies. I have two girls and a little boy on the way in about 5 weeks from today. Very excited. But my journey with entrepreneurship, I want to say it really goes back to, of course, like everything that we go through in life really starts building up and accumulating and getting to that point that brings us to where we are today, right? I launched my business, Book of Bijou, in 2021. But before that, I really grew up in a creative household. I loved DIYing things, I loved fashion. And in high school was the first time I really got that itch to be an entrepreneur, right? I knew that that was somehow going to be part of my journey, that that was what I was destined for. I was destined for something bigger than myself. And because I loved fashion so much, I really thought I was going to be going down the line of like fashion designer.
Okay.
um, so I had always like picked up jobs that kind of scratched that itch for me a little bit, if you will. It gave me some kind of authority, some kind of creative direction where I felt like I had a little bit of control of what I was doing. And then in 2018, when I became a first time mom, you have kids, right, Tali?
I do. I have two. One is 16 and one is almost 15.
Right. You have two kids. So you know what it's like when you become a first time mom and you're trying to find your way back back to who you are, right? So my way back to me was that creative space. And I started carving out time for myself to do like DIYs and certain crafts and things like that. And a couple years later, I had amassed all this jewelry from selling jewelry. And as a mom, that shelf space was really valuable. I was tired of seeing it, I was tired of it overtaking my shelf. So I used my creativity to come up with a storage solution. And that's how Book of Bijou was born. So we
Ah,
launched in 2021. And immediately going into that, I knew that I wanted to create a really amazing community around me because they always say entrepreneurship is lonely, right? But it
yes.
absolutely does not have to be. And it is one of my missions to remind everyone that it does not have to be. So I set out to create this community, and that's when Empowered by Women was formed shortly after we launched Book of Bijou. I had no idea what Empowered by Women was going to be, or what the main like goal was, like what I wanted to build it to. What I knew was the energy that I wanted to create, the space that I wanted to create where women can come and get really excited and support each other and lift each other up and not be in that competition mindset, but really be in that space where we're just wanting to see each other win. So that was the beginning of 2022 when we launched our community platform. And from there, it's been this really beautiful, natural progression because I've allowed myself to stick with that original premise of I just know the energy that I want to create. And I kept leaning into that and building on the momentum from the energy of the women surrounding me and leaning more into what it was that they were asking for and what they were getting excited about, which is what got me even more excited. So we've kept building ever since.
I love that. And I did not know about the Book of Bijou and how it started off in jewelry. I think some of our background story might be quite similar. Like when I had the kids, you start to like lose your identity, so to
Yeah.
speak, because
Mhm.
you're focused on raising this person that didn't come with an instruction manual. So you're like Forrest Gumping it the entire time, winging it. And then you start to realize, wow, okay, now what am I going to do with myself? And very similar to you, I decided, okay, well, I've got this creative side and I'm going to tap into it. And I think the funny thing about it is entrepreneurship is almost a calling. And I think you described it as an itch. I kept feeling this like go left, go left, go left. And it was kind of like, okay, let me try something out of the box. So I decided I was going to start, or I did start a wedding and planning special events business quite naively because people do not get married in your backyard. But whatever, I was a stay at home mom and it seemed like it was the stay at home thing to do. But I share all of that is going back to feminine energetics, so much of it is based on this intangible that we call intuition.
Yeah.
Now, I know for some people when they hear it, it's very like woo, it's very out there. But quite frankly, we all have it. It's a question of whether or not we believe it and we use it. So when you think of intuition, what does that mean to you? Like what does that mean to you right now?
I think in its most simplest form, it's just what feels good to you, right?
Yeah,
Because you have that gut response to everything that you're dealing with in life.
right.
And like you just said, it's up to you whether or not you're going to allow yourself to lean into it. When I launched my business, that was a really pivotal moment in my life because I was switching from this mentality of, let me go ahead and do what everyone is expecting of me, right? I was very much kind of in that people pleasing mode of, okay, finish college. I didn't really believe in college, but I finished college. I walked the stage. I didn't really care to walk the stage. I got the good job, right? A stable government job. I have the partner and the kids. And when I launched my business, I was like, okay, you know what? Like I said, I've always known that I was destined to do something bigger than myself, but I never allowed myself to step into that role because I was always kind of just, sure, I'll do whatever it is that you need me to. No problem. I was a good girl, right?
I'm telling you, that's my talk for our Women Thrive Summit.
Is it?
And it is. It's about this good girl mentality, and I thought that was interesting that you went down this path because so many of us, especially minority women,
Yep.
we fall into that because we need to fit in.
Mhm.
Yeah. And it's so easy to start saying, okay, they say you go to college, you go to college. Then they say you get the job. But as you're saying, and I find that so sad in hindsight because
Yeah.
there's so many more options. But as you started going down this path, it's one thing to follow what your calling is, to follow that intuitive guidance, but there's resistance that comes up along with it. And a lot of times it's that fear. So going from good girl or people pleasing and shifting to becoming empowered, basically, what was that process like for you?
Yeah, I think it was in that moment when I knew that I was going to launch a business. I knew that I had some mindset work to do and I had to make that shift. And I felt like it wasn't that big of a deal for me to jump into entrepreneurship because like I said, I feel like I've been the good girl, right? I've done everything that you've asked me to do and I felt like, okay, now I've made it to a point where I've done everything on your to-do list and I appreciate you for bringing me to where I am today. But even after doing all of those things that are supposed to be stepping stones to leading you to the best life, right?
Yeah.
That's what society says. I never felt fulfilled with all of those little things going to college, getting my degree, getting the good job. So I made that decision. I'm going to create a life that I want to live, that I'm excited about, that feels good to me. And that's really why I wanted to create this community. And I didn't want anything to feel so forced. So maybe like looking back at it now in hindsight, maybe that's why I lean so heavily into my intuition, and to not have those boxes to check off about, okay, if I launch Empowered by Women, this is what it has to be, this is what it has to look like. Because I
Oh,
didn't want
that's
to check those.
interesting.
I know. I'm like just thinking about that now. Like maybe that's why. Because I didn't want to have to follow this stringent path that's already laid out for me, even though it's my own business, right? I
Right.
want to let it grow naturally and let it grow in a way that continues to feel aligned for me. And if I let myself be in that space where I'm showing up very honestly and vulnerably and telling people what my vision is for this community, I've seen that they resonate with the way that I show up. And then that energy gets reciprocated, right?
Yeah.
And then it's this really beautiful cyclical effect of me putting out all of this really positive energy, and I'm so excited and I love what I'm doing and I'm so passionate about it, and I just want to keep giving back and keep supporting women. That gets reciprocated back to me, and then it encourages me to put it out even more, and then it's this really, really beautiful flow. And it has brought me to this place now where we've launched an online woman-owned small business directory. We are now hosting several events in the year. We are rolling out a new pop-up program to continue supporting our vendors. And it feels amazing. It
It
really
feels
does.
amazing listening to you. You can really feel your heart behind that. So as you as you step into this, right, for listeners right now, and they're thinking like, oh, I really resonate with this, Krystal. I feel like there is this kind of calling on my life also. What would be step one?
I think it would be to really have grace with yourself. That's something that took me a long time to get to that point, right? Especially as mompreneurs. I have a deep affinity for all of my mompreneurs out there because I know exactly how hard it is to deal with the mom guilt, to be juggling your time, right? Your very, very limited time. Allowing yourself to recognize that you have so much power, even if you don't feel like it, right? To even just show up, whether it's in the smallest of spaces or in the smallest way, recognize how much power that small action has. Even if
I
you're,
think that's brilliant. If you don't mind, if we can just
no,
jump into that
yeah.
for 1 second, because so often people think like power is big and loud. These small steps that confirm that you're going down the right path,
Mhm.
those are the most profound, especially anytime we're starting something or we're scaling something. Yeah. Talking about that, I think is a missed opportunity for most people because
Yeah,
you're only looking at like, oh, and by the way, here I've built my empire.
right.
But how did you even get started on that? So thank you for sharing those small steps because really owning that, like, oh shit, I showed up today.
Yeah.
I followed through. I had my own back. Going from there and really, like you said, allowing yourself the grace and the space to see what comes up next, I think really taps into your topic of feminine energetics. So when you think of feminine energetics, like what does it mean for you? I know intuition and flow, but like what does it actually look like in practice? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it has a lot to do with just the energy that you're allowing yourself to be in and holding yourself in a space of grace, right?
Mhm.
Not putting so much pressure on yourself. Of course, I think in order to be a successful business person, you do need to have this beautiful balance of that masculine and feminine energy. But I lead definitely more with the feminine energy, and where I'm allowing myself to get rest when I need to get rest. I'm not so strict with my goals and have all those boxes that I absolutely need to check, otherwise, I'm not successful. I'm going into it from a place of service and of empathy and of wanting to be a support system to others instead of just, being very aggressive in what I want for my business. I want to go back to what we were just talking about right before you asked that question. But when you start small, right, when you're making those small little steps, I think at first it does feel very much for you, and it has to feel very much for you. You have to be willing to say, I'm going to do this for myself. I'm going to take that time to carve space for myself. But when you allow yourself to do that and keep building that momentum, you are giving yourself the power to really create an impact that's so much bigger than yourself.
Yeah.
And I think with what our values are, with women empowerment and community over competition and giving back, it's very much this supportive space where we are holding ourselves accountable in the most graceful way, where no matter what we're doing, it's always a learning lesson. There is always a beautiful silver lining to all of the ebbs and flows of business, right? We're leaning into our intuition, and we're allowing ourselves to, I feel like I've said this so many times, but just do what feels good. I think that's really been like the biggest thing in my past couple of years in business is I just want to keep doing what feels good to me. And if that means, launching a program and then stopping the program because it doesn't feel like it is aligned with what we're doing and I'm not getting that same energy reciprocated back to me, that's okay. I don't need to have a 5-year plan for that program. And I'm okay with allowing myself the space to navigate all of these different changes and try new things and be really proud of myself for showing up in that way and for being vulnerable and for letting people know, like, if it doesn't work out, that's okay. I'm so glad I tried it because now I know that this is not what feels good to me. This is not what's resonating with our community. And so there's no reason to pursue it really that much further if it's not filling my cup and it's not providing me with that fulfillment that I was looking for when I launched my business, when I made that conscious choice to say, okay, I'm done living everyone else's life. I'm going to start living my own life.
There was so much in that. So let me back up for a second. I think for so many of our listeners today, you just gave them this huge permission slip. Even as adults, I feel like, and I say this often, we all need that permission to say it's okay. And for hearing you just say, like, if it doesn't feel good anymore, release it, basically.
Exactly. Yep.
Because in this hustle culture that we've pretty much been raised in, right? Well, my generation, anyways. There's this sense of, no, you just got to keep pushing and pushing and pushing, and you pursue it to the point, often to sickness. There's burnout, but it's more by the time they've burnt out, something has shifted physically also, right? It's going to manifest somehow. So hearing you say, if it's not resonating, if it doesn't feel good anymore, it's okay to let it go. I could just feel the sigh of relief that so many people are going to feel with that. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Within your community, it must be a conversation that comes up in that sense of like, hey, this is where I started, but I'm feeling this pivot. The pivot sometimes is actually to put you on the path you're supposed to be on.
Exactly.
But there's resistance there. How does your community help support that? Oh, my hair, sorry.
I think there is that change, or that fear of change, right? And that fear of, what if I do make this change and it doesn't go well? But like I said, I'm at this really, really beautiful point in my life where I look at everything as an amazing learning lesson. And I want to learn. I am constantly in that learning mindset. And, of course, people learn by doing different things. I definitely learn by trying new things. And there have been things that I've started and then have stopped or haven't followed up on just because either I don't have the capacity to, maybe I didn't get that energy reciprocated back to me. But to answer your question, I think when I am feeling that hesitation, like, I said I created this community because I wanted that support system, right? I didn't want to feel like I'm doing this alone. So I don't believe in the hustle and silence mentality, right? Disappear for a whole year and then show up this completely different person with this brand new empire. I don't believe that. I am very much, my mantra is to live loudly passionate. So when I'm getting really excited about it, about something, I like to talk about it. Okay. And you can talk about it with your friends and your family, but a lot of times they don't even get what it is that you're doing. And that's fine. I don't let that faze me, right? Because I know I have this platform, this community that I've created where people do get it. And I allow myself to show up authentically in that space and say, I am so excited about what I'm working on. This is what I'm hoping to bring. And I kind of start planting those seeds, right? And then I get into that place where I'm hoping what we trigger is that really beautiful, like cyclical flow of energy, right? Where I'm getting excited and I'm giving them little tidbits of what I'm wanting to create. And I'm seeing how they're responding because their energy starts to feed my energy.
Right.
And if they really start getting excited about it, then that's when it's like, okay, yeah, it feels like I'm on the right path. I want to pursue this. I think this is going to be really great. And I'm able to dive into it head first with that fire in my belly, like, oh my gosh, this is going to be amazing. And that's been how a lot of our growth has been.
That is beautiful, especially with the sense of reciprocity. Oftentimes, entrepreneurs, mentors, coaches, we get into the funk, so to speak. We just give, but we are not allowing anything to come back in for us. So that sense of reciprocity, it's not there.
Yeah.
Right. And so I love that that's part of your like go-to methodology, because you've said it several times in different ways now. And just hearing it is like, oh, okay, maybe for someone that's that missing link, they're just giving, but there's nothing coming in, like, because again, in like on currently, right, like the social media marketing and mentorship has always been give value, but nobody has said, but then there needs to be a receivership of sorts.
Exactly. And I think that's just building on the feminine energy, right? Allowing yourself to receive, right? We're always, as women, so naturally in this nurturing mindset where we do want to support other people and we're very empathetic to how everyone else is feeling. But allowing yourself to receive that same support is game changing, and recognizing that there are people out there willing to provide that support for you, right? And I've seen time and time again that by me just very naturally coming from a place of service, I've had so many women come up to me and say, how do I be a part of this? What can I do to support you? Without me even having to pose the question of, hey, like, can you help me out? And feeling really guilty.
Yeah.
So I think there's that fear of judgment too, right? Just by putting yourself out there. But you'll realize that once you do put yourself out there, that fear is completely made up in your head. And there
What does
are
fear
more
stand for?
people,
A false evidence appearing real. So that's a perfect example right there.
yeah. And there are more people out there that are really going to do the exact opposite of what you're expecting them to do, right? You're expecting them to tear you down and judge you for, starting a little bakery or making that first necklace, right? Or launching your coaching business when they think you don't have the experience. But you have the experience. You're just not allowing yourself to accept that.
Oh, so dive into that a little bit, because I think that is huge. How does the acceptance begin?
I think sometimes it does start with getting to a place where you're allowing yourself to receive those compliments from other people. I also have a podcast and I've chatted with so many women, and it's so interesting to see that so many of these women have had stories where they've kind of always been doing what they're doing now without even realizing it, right?
Yeah.
Like they've always been kind of like that coach or that mentor to someone else, or helping someone like organize all of their things. But they've never really recognized it as a strength of theirs. It's just something that they do, until there's that one person or the couple of people that say, I need your help. You're really good at this. And it kind of takes them aback because it's like, am I? Like, isn't everyone good at this? This is just something that I've been doing for the past 10 years and it seems like it's nothing to me. And we are so quick to diminish all of our strengths to something that is mediocre, something that is just so small.
Yeah.
But really, you are beautiful, you are amazing, you are incredible. And all of those little things that you've been doing on a daily basis, the way you show up for your kids, the way you show up in work, and you're able to, foster those connections with your peers, whatever it is that you're doing, recognize that you have those strengths for a reason. And if you're not able to recognize that for yourself, start allowing yourself to take in those compliments from other people. When someone compliments you, thank you. I appreciate that, right? We're so quick to say, oh, yeah, no, it's not a big deal.
Or you're really quick to give a compliment back.
Right.
So you
right.
never take the space to really fully embrace it and to even acknowledge that they said something.
Exactly. And clearly it's something that you enjoy doing. It's something that you've always been doing, right? That's been so very naturally to you. So just, getting to that point where you're in a place of self-reflection and you're really building on your self-awareness of, okay, this is who I am. This is something that I enjoy. This is something that I want to continue doing. And then start making those decisions a little bit more consciously every single time, right? It's no longer just, I just do it because I feel like I have to, or I've always done it, or it seems like everyone does it. Do it because you enjoy it. Do it because you love it. Do it because you're good at it and it makes you feel good and you recognize the impact that it's making.
It's a whole, like I talk about it often, it's radical self-responsibility. And really, in this case, it's accepting your fullness.
Yes. I love that. Oh, I love that so much.
Is really acknowledging that you were divinely made, right? I mean, irrespective of your religion, your personal beliefs, you're here with all of these gifts that come to you naturally. And now you're allowing yourself to showcase them.
Yeah.
I know that we are going to have listeners that want to connect with you. What is the best way to get in touch with you?
Instagram, definitely very active on our Instagram. So that's at POWEREDbyWMN, women spelled WMN. Or you can head to the website version of that, empoweredbywommen.com, where you can check out our online women-owned small business directory. We have about 40 women-owned brands there that are really incredible people that I would love for you all to connect with. But I would be so happy to chat. I'm all about creating connections, and of course, I'd be happy to welcome any of your audience into our community and see the kind of magic we can make together.
I love it. All of ways to connect with Krystal will be in the show notes. So definitely be in touch, get in touch, because it's time for you to take ownership of all your magic. Krystal, thank you so much for coming on today. I loved this conversation. And I think for so many of our listeners, I know there's going to be so many moments of relief and ahas. So thank you again so much. To our audience, I am always wishing you a beautiful day. And remember, anything is possible once you decide. Until next time, I'm Jaytali Desai, and this is Soul